Hello and welcome back to IT Security Labs, and in this video I'm going to tell you a story of how I passed the CISSP in 2019. During this story you're going to learn the 5 tips that I think are essential to passing the CISSP on your first try. This is my CISSP certificate, and as you can see, this thing is actually pretty valuable. It just sits here in my room, and once in a while I go around flashing this card saying CISSP. No, I don't do that. But in 2019 I decided that I was going to go for the CISSP. I knew that it's a difficult exam, but it's something that will help me tremendously in my career. Not only am I going to get a valuable certification that will look good on my resume, but I was learning very important skills. I needed to understand the bigger picture of IT security, and a lot of people say the CISSP is the closest thing to a degree in IT security that you can get right now. It's an industry standard. So I went to my employer. I asked if they would be willing to pay for the CISSP, and of course they said yes, because I had presented my case to them. I had highlighted a business case on why they needed to help me get this certification. I got some training material. I signed up for the exam right away. So I gave myself 16 weeks to actually sit for the exam. Not anywhere did we discuss about what happens if I fail the exam, because no one talks about that. The goal was I will go for the exam and I will pass. So that was the expectation for my employer. And at the same time, we were expecting our son, our first child, to be born a few weeks after my CISSP. So my back was on the wall here. I needed to pass this exam, and also I needed to be able to understand the material at the same time. So I needed to commit and execute this plan. So my first order of business was to come up with a plan. That's my tip number 1. If you have a plan, game plan, you are likely to execute and actually be successful compared to just doing it when you get time. The idea of getting time doesn't actually exist. You need to be intentional about when and how you study. And that's what I did. I went on Reddit, on the CISSP study group on Reddit, and someone had posted a 16-week plan, and that was perfect for me. So I downloaded the 16-week plan. It highlights which topics you can go through on every single week, and it also is a bunch of resources that we can use. That was amazing. So that was the first thing, is come up with a plan, have an Excel spreadsheet with all the exam topics, and stick to the plan that works for you. And every night I had 3 hours set aside to study for the CISSP, and I knew that because I had planned for it. So that's my tip number 1. Without a plan, your chances of succeeding are very low. Tip number 2 is I realized that now that I have a plan, I need to execute it and execute it well. So I went to my 16 weeks study plan, looked at all the exam topics, realized which topics I was very familiar with. So I ranked myself from 1 to 5. 5 being I know the topic, I'm very comfortable with it. And for me, that was networking. Anything to do with networks, subnetting that they talk about in there, VLANs, all that stuff, that's what I do. So I was a 5 on that topic. Other things like cryptography, risk management, I was a 3 or 2. Sometimes in other topics, especially cryptography, I was a 1. So that gives me an idea of where I am and how I'm going to dedicate my time to these topics. So when it came to the week where I was studying cryptography, I spent way more time not only studying that topic, but doing more research, writing down notes to understand the material. When it came to networking, I'll just browse through the pages because it's the most basic networking topics that you can get. So that was very easy and quick for me. So coming up with a plan, scoring yourself, and spending most of your time on topics that you're weak at is very important, because the CISSP is definitely a lot of material. But if you can eliminate most of that because you already know it, and you can focus on what you don't know, that will be very, very beneficial, especially in accomplishing this goal. So that was tip number 2. So during my studies, one thing that I realized is I would go through all these topics, I'll read the book, I'll watch videos, and be like, okay, that was it. But I got the most value when I studied the material, then I would test myself. I would do the questions in the books, I would do questions from other online sources, or any questions like the Boston, NetSim, or wherever you get any questions really. It doesn't matter which questions, it's just a matter of practicing. The idea is practice, practice, practice soon after reading this material. Because when you practice, you realize that you do have gaps in your knowledge. And those questions that you got wrong prompt you to go and do further research so that you can understand the material even better. That was very important for me. By the time I was done with the CISSP studying before the exam, I had done anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000 or 5,000 questions. But I'm pretty sure that I did a lot of questions. My rule of thumb was when I do a topic, I at least do 10 to 20 questions immediately. Then I'll do more questions when I get any time tomorrow, maybe during my lunch break or something. So I would do at least 100 questions on any topic at any given time, as long as I can find those questions either from the book, either from Boston, or any other online questions that I could find. I would just literally go on Google and say CISSP practice questions. The first result, I'll just go there and answer all those questions because they're just there and they're great for practicing. So you will never run out of questions. So that's my tip number 3. Practice and practice and practice. That is very, very important. Then when I practiced and I was doing all this stuff, practicing questions can be difficult because you get stuck where you don't know the answer or you don't agree with the answer that whatever practice bank that you're using is. So my tip number 4 is joining an online community. Joining an online community helps you because if you get stuck, you can always ask other people who are studying and say, I'm stuck between these two answers, or I don't agree with this answer that this online forum brought up and I think it's wrong. And people will be able to bounce ideas off you. And other people actually do the same. So when you join, say, the CISSP subreddit, which I'll link in the bottom, and if you join the Facebook group, CISSP Study Notes by Luke Ahmed, there's like 30,000 people over there, all studying for the CISSP. Some of them who have passed for the CISSP, like myself, who are still members of the groups. And you can ask questions, you can see other people post questions, asking which one is the best answer. You can even see other people posting about their failure and telling you that they just failed. To me, that motivated me to even study harder, knowing that this exam is really difficult. Seeing other people fail and posting the results was the way that's how I learned that when you fail the CISSP, you are graded on every domain. You're not graded based on the total number of questions that you got right. You're graded on the number of questions that you got right on every domain. So you can get 100% on all the domains and get 10% on the one domain and you still fail. So that's also very important that you go out there and see other people post about their failing or some successes. And those who succeed, you can even ask them for some pointers on how they studied. Don't expect anyone to tell you what's in the exam because that's actually against the rules. But what you get is valuable information about what the exam is all about. So just join some online communities that I'll link in the description. It's very important and it actually makes your life way easier. It also helps to motivate you to stay on track because every single day, especially on the CISSP Reddit or the Facebook page, people would post about failing, taking the exam, and it just reminds you of this journey that you're on, which is very difficult and challenging. So that was something that was very helpful for me, and that's tip number 4. And my final tip, which I think is very important, is for the exam day. Don't do what I did. when I thought I was ready, I had done all these questions. I had followed my plan. I had read the book twice. I had watched 2 different types of videos. I had done all these things, but I still felt very nervous. Maybe that kept me to study more, but at the same time, on my exam day, I remember I had the exam at 11. I woke up at 6 a.m. because I was very nervous, and I read the whole Sunflower book. If you haven't heard of it, it's a very condensed notes that I think Luke Ahmed also posted on his Facebook page, and it's everywhere. It's just Google CISSP Sunflower. I read that Sunflower over and over again that morning because I was very nervous. Don't be like that. If you have done all the work, that last minute prep doesn't really help. I don't think I helped myself by being all nervous. Just go to the exam, know that you did everything you could to pass this thing, and you will pass. While you are in the exam, you're going to find yourself stuck with questions that you know the answer or think you know the answer, but now they throw another one that sounds like it's also the right answer. And most of the questions will ask you for the best solution. For me, what I did was read the questions twice to understand what they were asking. Since English is not my first language, I needed to read the question at least 2 or 3 times, highlighting the keywords. What is the best? Then I'll underline best solution to this problem, and I will highlight the problem, the actual problem, so I understand it. Then when I read the answers, another tip that I got from reading online and also watching a lot of YouTube videos like this one is think as if you are a business executive, you are a manager, you are a VP of operations, and this is one part of your department that you manage. You don't know anything about IT, but what you know is business and what's best for the business. And if you find yourself stuck, think like that person who is the VP of operations, or you are an IT manager, but you don't do the technical stuff. You care about the policy, the procedures, and how to make the best decisions for the business. If that doesn't work, think like a lawyer who is writing a policy that can be enforced in a court of law. Was what someone said, I'm not sure if it's true or not, is that this exam was actually written by a bunch of lawyers and corporate executives out there who actually who created these questions. So if you cannot make a decision as a business executive, think like a lawyer. Which one of these would be the best decision that a lawyer can make the most argument about and actually win a case, just in case it came to that point? That's very important, and it makes it easier to actually finally come up with a tiebreaker when you're stuck on 2 questions. And that's really, really a real problem that happens in the exam. This leads to you second guessing yourself, wondering if you're actually going to pass the exam halfway through, sweating. You have an emotional roller coaster during this exam. I thought I had failed. At some point, I thought I'd given up. But the truth is, as long as you keep up with this mentality and understanding how to make these decisions, you'll definitely be fine. So that's what I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you like this content, please remember to subscribe, like my videos. I'll be posting a lot more videos about this type of material and more IT security in general. So subscribe to my channel, and if this is helpful, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.